Taking on Super Perfect Team, the third place team out of the Chinese Gold League. Gillyweed here, back with Wolf once again. I know you're really looking forward to this match, Wolf.
This is the match I was looking forward to most all evening, so I'm excited to see how Black performs here in China. The cool thing about MVP Black, of course, is they have a history playing in China, competing against Chinese teams, going to 2 different Gold Series Cups, and then, of course, also playing in the very first, split of HGC in spring last year, playing against Edward Gaming in the grand finals that took place in their hometown of Korea. Now, China has another opportunity to try to defeat this team that last year was so legendary and so on top of everything. And we're going to take a look here, of course, at SPT. This is their chance. This is their opportunity to kind of get revenge on what Black has done to them, the region overall, and some of these very players throughout 2016.
Super Perfect Team at their height probably was at the Gold Club World Championship. They were able to take a game off of Val 5 and defeated E-Star, but they have had some roster swaps since then, common with China like we're seeing from Zero as well. But what we do know is that they have made one swap. They've brought in Kite to replace Wings, and potentially they're going to have some role swaps as well, maybe even putting Misaka back on a role that he is far more comfortable with. Yeah,
and Misaka has always impressed me. He's always been one of my favorite Chinese players for playing the specialist role, the ranged flex role, where personally I thought his Sylvanas was incredible. He started off in the fall season last year with an incredible win rate on Sylvanas and then switched into the tank position going into BlizzCon, where he underperformed. He missed a lot of his Storm Bolts on Muradin, for example. And I feel like right now especially, players are starting to realize how important the tank role is overall. And if you're playing such an important integral role, you need to be really good at it. He's had some time to improve that, I feel, since BlizzCon. But I would like to see him on Specialist. The other side of the coin here, though, is specialists don't always see play, and you end up kind of just playing a ranged assassin, which he's also not known for.
But what we have seen from the other 2 Chinese teams so far here at the Eastern Clash is they are focused heavily on their ability to push lanes, push the envelope to their teams. We saw Zagara Nidus split pushing on Brax's holdout from Zero, and E-Star was even implementing some of that, which I can't stress enough is so weird, but awesome to see from China at the same time.
Yeah, it's that aggressive sort of forcing mistakes type of play that I think Koreans are not known to make big mistakes, right? They play so crisp. They have this, big macro-oriented style where they usually play pretty conservatively. But if you force, like in the case of Tempest we saw earlier, them to make tough choices, sometimes they make the wrong ones, or sometimes you force them to be in situations they don't experience in Korea and they make mistakes. Tempest, I feel like a lot of people are looking at that last series going, oh, Tempest takes this 2-0. It's pretty easy against Zero. But Zero has already shown China is ready to challenge Korea in this event. Yes, they lost the series, but they looked really good doing it.
Yeah, I look back at that moment where Tempest were at the core of Zero, and they were going back and forth between the keeps, and just like that kind of indecision is not known to see, but it's MVP Black this time, who was the second place team coming out. And for me, the story of competitive heroes has almost been like the story of MVP Black, and not even like if they're going to regain power in Korea, but when they'll do so.
Right, and I think that the roll stops that we saw from MVP Black earlier on, at the beginning of HGC Korea, I was a little bit worried about them. I was watching Kyocha be unable to play Ragnaros. Sake was having to play Ragnaros, but he's the ranged assassin, so Kyocha got forced back onto Flex. Reset to melee assassin main, essentially now forced to play ranged assassin. I was like, this just doesn't feel like it's going to gel, but somehow, some way, MVP Black, against what you look at on paper, seems to be performing better than they did at the Fall Championship at BlizzCon.
They do have the 2 new members. They had been the longest standing roster for Heroes of the Storm for a long time. They made no swaps for the entirety of last year, but finally, losing to Fnatic at BlizzCon, losing to their sister team, having to take 3rd at the Gold Club World Championship seemed to be the straw that broke the camel's back, and finally they were willing to bring on some new blood to the team. They brought in Tist and Reset to replace Sign and Rich. How have you felt like they've been able to gel with the team as players and individuals in their synergy?
I feel like definitely Tist is godlike, and I feel like actually at the at the end of BlizzCon, even going into the, the Gold Club World Championship, I feel like Tist was way outperforming Sign. So I think this is actually a big step up for Black. The things I'm worried about are Reset and Kyocha. Kyocha was playing mostly non-mechanically demanding heroes on the ranged flex role. Now he's forced to play melee, which is a lot tougher. More talk on that later as we break down SPT. You were talking about how this team has different position swaps possibly incoming, and that can be a strength and a weakness. It could certainly be these players going back to what they're more comfortable with. That can really work out for them. And they could also keep what their draft is doing hidden from Black, because when you know who plays which heroes on a team, it's a lot easier to draft against them. So that can be a card for SPT, but at the same time, switching up a lot with this new roster they've got can definitely bring some inconsistencies as well.
Yeah, the main thing that we do know is that Kite they brought in was traditionally a warrior player for the Star Dream, replacing another ex-member of the Star Dream in Wings, which is funny, but Wings wasn't playing warrior. Misaka was. For a brief instant, Misaka also played melee assassins. I remember him playing Illidan, but I echo with you where I want to see him move back more to the ranged flex role. I remember him being pretty flexible, being able to fill in a lot of whatever is needed for his team.
I think about Misaka as a pressure player. He was great on Falstad solo top. Same with Sylvanas. His Zul was pretty impressive as well. He knew just how far he could push and then escape. He very rarely got ganked. His Sylvanas was incredible at staying alive, but also getting kills. Him and Yao back in summer were impressive, as we're going to see the pick of Cursed Hollow here for map number 1. And this is a big map that's all about globals in Korea. Obviously, the bigger the map is, the more value you gain out of global heroes. So I expect MVP Black to prioritize that very highly, unless they have, something that they're trying to hide, which we already saw earlier a little bit from L5 showing some unique comps. Reset Man on the screen right here will likely be your Falstad player, should that come to pass. And Kyocha, I feel like, for the struggles he's had transitioning into the melee role, has played a very good Dahaka. So these are two important heroes to look for in this draft. And something that SPT no doubt has done their research on. It's always easiest to prepare for your first match because you know about it very far ahead of time. And that's what SPT has to go on here as we jump into this draft.
Yeah, I wondered if maybe we would see MVP Black return to having their Zeratul Ragnaros that they have paired together, but generally that's more on Dragonshire. Tassadar, the first ban for MVP Black.
And we'll see if SPT decides to remove the Falstad here. And I was going to say, and it's kind of bait Black potentially into the Zarya, but they're going to take the Zarya away. Now, I'm really curious to see what Black is going to do here. This is, of course, their first time playing on this new patch. They're going to take Malfurion, which is the really safe choice because he can pair into anything, and you deny a strong pairing with him for SPT in the first rotation. But this leaves SPT globals all widely available right now, and I think it'd be wise to take them.
Especially with Xian Qiao, that's long been a hero that he's been playing and being able to make plays for his team. The other one, man, way back when they were qualifying for BlizzCon was the Zagara, and then he would knight a split push, and it was on this battleground, I believe, Cursed Hollow, where they beat E-Star to qualify for BlizzCon. It's been way back, but I do know that they at least were wrecking on Cursed Hollow with that Zagara.
We're going to take the Tyrael away first, which is quite interesting. Immediately, the lock-in of Zeratul and Ragnaros coming out for Black. So this is a strong draft for them already, and they've got their melees lined up here. It's unusual, however, to see a Zeratul and Ragnaros on the same team in Korea because they both serve that melee role.
But MVP Black has been playing that quite a bit, right? Because they put Sake on Ragnaros, he's the Ragnaros player, and then Kyocha can play Zeratul. They're actually undefeated with that combo.
That's exactly right. And that's one of the cool things about MVP Black. You can look at it as a weakness that Kyocha seems to not favor the Ragnaros play. But when you have a great player like Sake, it could actually pick up the slack there. It gives Reset the opportunity to play a big carry ranged mage, which is usually what he does, like a Li Ming or a Falstad oftentimes. To the Ariel ban here, it's no shock because of the pairing with Vala. The ETC ban here is a strong warrior and it removes the globals. I'd like to see Falstad picked up here, but SPT may have other ideas. They might try to go down an unkillable Vala type of composition. The issue with that is both Tassadar and Zarya have been removed and you've lost Ariel, so I don't think you can solo damage Vala here anymore. I think you need to bring in some extra damage, and I think that's going to be the fall stat. He's got the global potential here as well.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of is maybe if they wanted to get Medivh and then another damage dealer.
That's actually, that's not even a bad idea. Like, I didn't even quite think of that. But it's going to be double support.
Oh
That's going to be their way.
Oh my gosh, this is happening again!
We've seen this rise up quite a bit recently, and we saw a lot of double supports like this in Taiwan, and now we're seeing it here on day one of the Eastern Clash. And this is quite interesting that they would grab them both here. And I wonder who that 5th pick's going to end up being here. It starts to feel like
they're hiding something?
Yeah, but it could just be a Dahaka 5th pick here as well for the global presence that he has. The warrior for black will be Muradin. And now leading to that range, I think it's got to be Li Ming. The problem is Li Ming's burst might not be enough to stop this healing, actually. They may want to look for, I want to even say potentially Greymane. They're looking for some sort of ranged burst. I'd say Zeratul can help get the picks on the Vala with the Li Ming potentially to get the resets. But this is a really tough choice right now for black because they left their damage for last, and SPT has had a solid lineup here to protect the Vala. It's going to be the Li Ming though. It's going to be tough to get those kills. It's really going to, the pressure is going to be on Zeratul, I feel. And there's the Zag!
Yeah, there she is! I feel like of all the teams we have seen so far, MVP Black is the one that I'm like, okay, that is just normal. So normal for MVP Black. Whereas everyone else came in, L5 was like, whoa, what's happening here?
Yeah, I mean,
making those changes.
I feel like Black has certainly drafted as straight up as it gets, and the question is, will that work against the composition that we've seen from SPT here? The Kharazim Lucio gives incredible support to mobility, or rather, excuse me, incredible mobility to supports. With Lucio able to roll right around, be in the action very quickly, help get some of the healing there to allow Kharazim to dash in to get the secondary heal. He's got insane mobility because of his dash. I think that the Vala damage might be enough, but they just have to protect her, and that's kind of always what happens with Vala. When you have the solo damage Vala, does she stay alive? Because if she's alive, she's basically going to always do damage in any case. If
SPT are trying to get ahead in the laning early on, we may see them too just trying to delay, but not necessarily pick up one, maybe even the first 2 tributes, and then allows the guard to just get this continued push. So MVP Black will need to make sure that they're responding accordingly, you know, making sure if they need to keep Ragnaros down with her.
One of the things that we saw from MVP Black consistently was their shutdowns of split pushing really, really well. In China, going back to summer season, they played really well when they were playing in Gold Club against the split push style. Kyocho was one of the first players to popularize Tracer as kind of a counter to those split pushing Falstads and Sylvanas like Sky Temple, for example, in the top lane. And now we've got Zeratul. And it could very well be that Kyocho plays the Zeratul here. He's so good at shutting these heroes down by ganking. And that's what I'm worried about for Zagara. Can she make sure that she's split pressuring, but also have the call-outs from the team, always saying where Zeratul is and when he's missing? Because when he's missing, and you've got Zagara in the top lane, you know that Zeratul is coming, and you've got to be ready for that, and you've got to kind of step back.
Yeah, that's the nicest thing, too, is as long as Zeratul's off-map, Ragnaros can feel a little bit easier, maybe even posture, right? Posture aggressively, making Zagara think that Zeratul's around, even if Kyocho's not around, in order to be able to push her back just a little bit. But I want to emphasize that this combo of Zeratul and Ragnaros is undefeated when they are put together on MVP Black side. And it's not even like, oh, they've won a couple games with it. 6 games that they have not lost with that combo. Sake he's become a beast, in my opinion.
He really has. He's shown the flexibility to play a melee assassin essentially as a ranged player, which is something that Black has done really often. And also when Tempest was champions, they would show Lockdown, who was the main Falstad player, would actually oftentimes play Sonya, for example. And now we're seeing Sake, you know, saying, okay, normally I play range, but reset's so good, we're going into kind of a one ranged assassin meta, so I've got to flex up here, and I'm going to go into the Ragnaros because Kyocho's not as good at it. So it is going to be the Kyocha on Zeratul, Tist on Muradin, Meride on the Malfurion, Sake again on that Ragnaros, and Reset. Look, I mean, we always joke about it. His name is Reset. He's looking for the resets here on Li Ming.
Yeah, from Sake he's got the highest KDA of his team, 10.81, very high. I think Swoi maybe is the only person who's higher than him. Not very many have a higher KDA for him coming out of HGC Korea. He averages less than 1 death per game, which as an assassin player, is incredibly good. So I'll be watching out for Sake's follow-up to Kyocha's Void Prison. On the other side, the members of Super Perfect. Now we find out. So Y is going to be playing Vala. So it looks like keeping with the current roles for him. Misaka will be playing Karazim. ZZH is a support player playing Lucio. Xiao on his Zagara, and then Kite playing Tyrael. So it looks like maybe
the biggest swap here is Y playing the main damage on the Vala, which is, you know, he was kind of considered a tank player overall, but we weren't sure what he would really be playing here. And I feel like Misaka is kind of flexing, considering that he's playing the Karazim here. So
yeah, it makes me think maybe Misaka is going to be the melee assassin for the team, but we'll have to see. We'll know more as we see Super Perfect team, but they got to get through MVP Black here.
In blue, MVP Black, Tist on Muradin. Kocha here on the Zeratul. We know Merryday is on Malfurion, Sake is on the Ragnaros, and Reset is on Li Ming.
And in the red, Xiao playing Zagara, of Y playing Vala, ZZH on Lucio. Misaka will be playing Karazim, and finally Kite will play Tyrael.
Okay, the rise of Lucio in Asia, you know, and the story of Zagara. I don't think there's any question here that this is going to be it's not going to be Ma, it's going to be Nidus, Zagara. Yeah. And that's just so powerful on a large map like this. I think it's going to be the pressure and the responsibility on Kyocha here is quite great to prevent that from getting out of control.
MVP Black for now, setting up in a 1-2-2, but Zeratul and Muradin both have the possibility of being able to roam around, trying to get picks, trying to scare away Xiao from getting fully set up and doing massive amounts of damage.
And funny the solo matchup isn't being mid here. Ooh, Xinjiao gets caught though right away. Stun goes off, and that's going to be first blood here to MVP Black, as it looks like MVP Black is trying to bait something here with Kyocha rotating up, but you see actually that the Tyrael rotation up from Kite was there, and Kyocha sniffs it out. They're just going to go back here to solo. In fact, Tist actually joining up. So Kyocha going to kind of just clear this wave and continue to roam.
It's a nice response from MVP Black too, knowing that generally when you have a 2-1-2, if a bunch of your opponents show up in one lane, you can push the other lane that's really far away. So Zeratul moving up, SBT had to say, hey, Zeratul's off the map, we don't know where he is. They couldn't be as aggressive maybe as they would have wanted to be able to throw damage down, given that SBT lost Zagara.
We're going to see another invade here, or a gank attempt. Notice Tist took third wind at level 1. It makes these sort of ganks less costly on your health pool because you get your health back super fast even if you fail it. Obviously, the cost of that is the mana reduction and the extra damage that most Asian teams have been using right now with the Q build from Muradin at level 1. So that's an interesting variation. It's kind of Tist specific. We've seen him do it quite a bit, even on Miracle, as far back as Season 3 of Super League last year. So just wanted to point that variation out because that's, you know, pretty unique.
You were telling me about Lucio build that had been played some in Korea. It starts with this Accelerando, but then moving into Blind later on.
Yeah, you end up getting the quest talent at level 4 for increasing the arc of Lucio's boop, and then you take that into Heliotropics at 16. Oh man, this is stressing me out. Someone was supposed to rotate there. That didn't happen. That's an uncharacteristic mistake right there. I mean, I guess you could argue he prepped it for a quicker take later.
I was holding my breath.
But yeah, you can see builds into Heliotropics at 16. You lose the health, but you don't necessarily need it in this build for SPT because you only have one tank and no tanky assassin. So we could potentially see that big blind. It's possible.
Nice Storm Bolts to zone Xiao away. Merryday starting, but gets stalled out. Unfortunately, Zagar is going to get taken down, and then Kite jumping to his Eldruin's Might, and with a quick draw root from Meriday, they'll get a second kill there.
They do slightly delay this, but I don't think they get any value out of it. You would think perhaps Zagar would be split-soaking elsewhere if they're going to make a move like this. Unfortunately, she died, so that wasn't going to be possible, but she was in the lane where that could happen anyways. The reason why she died there, actually, and this is a rare case in Heroes, but the wall was dead. If the wall is up there, she probably just sneaks around it and avoids that, but the wall being down actually being a deadly factor here in this engage. Now, they didn't get the Zagara split poke and push, but they got the push up here in the top lane with Vala Lucio. They got this wall, so they're maintaining only a small EXP deficit.
Yeah, and that's an important lane for SPT because that is their safe boss lane, but MVP Black still had Sake up there on Ragnaros, so he could use Molten Core, so there was no issue of losing a fort, at least for now, but they're slowly, SPT are starting to put the damage into this top lane. So we'll see if MVP Black wants to make any adjustments at this point. Meriday is going to get the rest of those giants that Kyocha couldn't get. That will at least alleviate some of the pressure. And with, getting kills here, that would be huge too.
Oh, good body blocking here for ZZH.
Oh, that sound wave.
That was a good dodge. The sound wave as well. That was really well done. And good tribute spawn actually for SPT with the zoning here. Misaka is just going to get a free channel. Really well done. That top pressure helping alleviate that rotation down as well. So we tie up the tributes 1-to-1 here. And, Reset getting a bit aggressive here. Meriday will finally rotate down to give him the heal. But I feel like the story of Tist this game has been he's the roaming gank party, and he hasn't really been able to get as much done as he would like to. And, we saw evidence of that in that last push. If they give up a tribute, but get the top kill or two, it's all worth it. But without doing that, this is a big win for SPT.
Zeratul makes the rotation up again. Tist and Kyocha just meeting in the middle to clear out that wave, and then right back into trying to help out their teammates. Finally, some damage being put on, not only to push Zagar back, but in the bottom lane, so MVP Black can sort of make sure that they are keeping up with the damage that SPT has been putting on in the top lane.
Certainly so. Here's another attempt here by Tist to go for the gank with Kyocha. Aldruin's available, not going to happen. As we see, the tribute will actually be a top spawn, which is going to be favorable for SPT. This time we're going to see Xin Zhao stay bot, so he's actually going to look for that extra soak here. So this is delay tactics right now for SPT. They want to try to make this go as long as possible. And if you look at the minimap, you see Zeratul is rotating down during all of this as well.
He is rotating down. Karzim blown up before he can dash out to his teammates. So it would have been a 4v4, but now with that, SPT can't delay as long as they would have liked. Maybe even losing Tyrael here as he jumps to Eldruin.
Oh, this is everything gone wrong right now for SPT. Don't forget as well, Xin Zhao nearly died bot. If you look at the minimap, you could see that, just being so pressured here. Not dead in health, but nearly getting caught, right? He was really overstepping his bounds there. Coach is unable to get the kill here. But so far, you can see the threat of Zeratul is absolutely real as MVP Black hits 10 first. And we see actually the consideration here for Muradin is definitely going to go down the Avatar path. Oh, this is risky. I feel like this is intentional as well. Yeah, he's going to get away with it. He just wanted to bait that out to get the fort shots. Really wise decision by Kyocha to not go in on that. I respect that.
Muradin just being cheeky, checking out the the vision center on the side of SPT, but SPT are just trying to get their heroic abilities. On the side of MVP Black, very, very standard. We'll have the follow-up of Twilight Dream and Sulfuras Smash after Void Prison.
You know, the difference, we're going to see Palm here, of course. The difference, hold that thought, as we see this engage, reset, just barely gets out of harm's way as its tribute is spawning. The difference between this Zagara and what we saw from Zero was able to outmaneuver Tempest non-stop, but Xin Zhao in this case has not been able to accomplish anything except just getting one extra lane of soak, never really pressuring structures, and that Zagara pick feels really weak as a result. Yeah,
the bad news for them is that with this next tribute being first point for MVP Black, oh, that Palm was pretty early and paired with,
oh my God.
Here we go, Void Prison, Sulfuras Smash. Sanctification does help, but the Twilight Dream still blows 2 up.
The Sank was as good as it could have been. Unfortunately, it's just not enough. Not able to catch everyone there. It's going to be 4 dead for SPT here during Curse. And Tist avoids the expiration of Tyrael's trait as well. They're going to hit 13 easily off this, and we'll see if they actually look for a boss opportunity during this mess. They're going to actually, if you look at the bottom, you can even see Kyocha's proxy mining those EXPs in the bot lane as well. They're just going to make this an EXP tribute, not push super hard as 4 to get a keep or try to pressure a keep at all. They just wanted to secure this bot by clearing that wave and get a ton of EXP lead. And this is conservative, it's smart, and there's not much SPT can do about it after losing 4 in that last fight.
And Sanchow even was in trouble there, but now ZZH and Y starting to move in for the counter. Sake still has a ways to go.
Okay, Tista's going to come up here. They should just back off. They're not going to be able to chase for this one. As Zagara drops down to the Nias. Kyocha is even going to steal the red siege cap down here, and they are putting on so much pressure in the bot lane. Meanwhile, a blow-up going down to the ZZH, and Y may similar fate. Good palm. Oh, and he goes for the Vorpal. He waits for the palm to expire, and Vorpals his way right back in. The patience from this team. This is some tight play we are seeing, and like you said, you know, it feels like it might have been a liability that Kyocha was unable to play Ragnaros, but in this pairing, they are just so strong with Sake playing the Rag, and it is working out. Kyocha has stepped it up with his melee assassin play after role swapping, and this is just beautiful to watch.
Yeah, exceptional play from MVP Black so far in this game, number 1. Super perfect team, though. As I was getting ready to say, it was rough that they couldn't take advantage of having Nidus network during that last tribute fight, because Zagara had to be down and trying to help with the fight. They had to contest that tribute. They didn't want to give MVP Black the curse. However, it was at least a good spot. The creep was there to allow Zagara to get the benefits off of fighting on creep. But when the team fight went in, Palm went down, sound barrier at the same time, and then follow up from that to have the grouping. They've got to make sure they don't group up versus that combo, because it will obliterate them. It
may happen again here if they actually try to force this. Look at this, just Tist and Kyocha going to help buy time for the rest of the team to rotate up. They're going to get the kill on Y. 3v5, mind you. Here's the Void during cap, and here comes Malfear, and he's coming up here. They're going to try to steal this. There's a palm that goes down in the sink. They're unable to get the steal, but they were so close. They still get the kill on Jinzhao top there with a Saphira smash, and this actually very well may be a wipe with resets galore here. And in fact, this camp is not even capped yet. They didn't even get it, and Black is gonna steal it away and get a wipe, starting with a 2v5. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you MVP Black.
I was worried for them because the Void Prism was there. Ragnaros was still trying to rotate up, didn't have the follow-up. Sanctification completely nullified Twilight Dream, but then once Sanctification was down, it was like blow for blow. So if your Smash comes out, we've got Sound Barrier too, but in the end, the unwillingness to give up that point, to concede the point, now MVP Black has 2 bosses pushing at once, barely saving the bottom keep, but this top keep drops in. MVP Black sitting in the base of Super Perfect Team.
Not to mention the map is painted blue, and with all the lane pressure that's in the mid lane, they could look for more here. They absolutely are trying to. Here comes the Molten Core. It's going to be tough to find an edge here unless SPT makes a major mistake, but they're still down a talent tier, down 3 levels of scaling, mind you. It's not just a talent tier, it's several levels. And there's not a piece of real estate on this map that belongs to SPT right now. MVP Black is going to rotate away, I suppose, clean up what camps remain. And look at Tist's positioning. He's actually going to loop back around. They're going to turn this again, and they're going to look for the bot keep. Not even going to take camps. Maybe use this bot siege camp to secure the keep for sure, but SPT is in dire straits right now.
They are, and they're very far away from getting 16, but they just may have to simply fight without it anyway at this point if MVP Black continues to put the damage on here. Only 1 keep left, a 4-level lead for MVP Black in this game number 1 of the best of 3.
15 kills to 1. Full structures to 1. Without that death, we would be potentially watching a perfect game for MVP Black. SPT trying what they may here to hang in. They have Sanctification available for this mid push. It's just a siege. Kyocha can, with all this lane pressure, solo take the tribute, put them on curse point. They don't need to force anything. They don't need to overextend here. But with all the poke from Li Ming and Mirror Ball that he took actually at 16, they're just starting to whittle down this keep. And SPT kind of just has to sit back, and face the music here. There's not much playmaking they have with this draft to engage. If they had Maw, maybe they try to take a fight here, but it's just simply not going to be possible. And MVP Black is just going to try to grind them out of this game from pure conservative play. Oh, there's the Palm actually going to save Kite here, but a good attempt to blow him up instantly. Nice save. And it's a heroic for heroic traded. But this is, again, it's just the poke. They're just poking until the next tribute comes up. The next tribute comes up, they go get Curse. What do you have to do with this comp with SPT? I'm trying to look for answers, Gilly, but I just don't feel like there is a single one.
Yeah, it feels like they banked a lot on a strategy of being able to get early pressure somewhere, and they tried really hard. They had that 2-1-2, they were putting the damage on, but MVP Black had brilliant responses to that, knowing that should SPT get the right setup, then Zagara could have done work with that Nidus network. There is the Void Prison, though, Wolf.
No Sulfurous this time, but he's going to Molten Core into this for the big stun! Oh, man! And that is going to be a triple stun. 3 kills, resets for reset here. This will likely be a wipe. Can Misaka get out? No, he cannot. And it's time for SPT to get out of game number 1 as MVP Black just shows why this team is so coordinated. This isn't the same roster that was the dominating world champions of 2016 worldwide, globally, with an incredible win streak, but this team looks unstoppable right now. Oh, whoa. I mean, majestic.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's not over yet for SPT, but I'm already like, man, if it goes that way, if it's a 2-0 for MVP Black versus E-Star tomorrow, oof.
I mean, I gotta be real with you. It's tough to take a loss like this no matter who you are, where you're from, like what kind of player you are. You play Silver League, Hero League casually, you get that annihilated, and you're probably gonna step away from the computer for a little while. Maybe you're gonna go outside. Maybe you don't feel too good about that one. And I feel like, yeah, SPT absolutely can bounce back in this series, but after a loss like that, it's tough to get your morale back even. I mean, that is as one-sided as it gets, and it's not even because SPT played bad, it's because Black played good.
Yeah, phenomenally. And like I said, it goes back to how important it was that MVP Black not let that place where SPT could, even if they were just like poking and hanging around a tribute or any sort of fight, all of a sudden Zagara's taking a keep somewhere. Like, what the heck? Where did she come from? It was so important that MVP Black had not let that happen, and SPT was doing everything to try to open up that opening, if you will, but it just wasn't to be.
I mean, if Kyocha retires from Heroes of the Storm, he could get a job with a professional babysitter, because that's what he was doing that game. He was babysitting the Zagara lane, and he did a great job of it. I'd pay him a high rate. Tist as well, given the MVP award here, constantly roamed, had third wind, so he didn't actually really lose too much from even diving turret shots to try to get kills, because he just sealed it up real quick with the third wind. Roamed quite a bit more, I'd say, even than Zeratul. It's kind of the dynamic duo of Muradin and Zeratul looking for kills. But Zeratul eventually just kind of ended up babysitting Zagara, and Tist was just going around the map looking for opportunities.
Yeah, neither the top or the bottom lane able to get the damage done early enough to succeed and give SPT an opening. So now we have to look at game number 2. In SPT, we've seen some of the members struggle with issues under pressure. Misaka at BlizzCon was one, definitely had a rough time with the loss there, but in being one game down in the series, not the greatest way to start off when you're here in front of the home crowd, but they definitely need to regroup here if they want a chance of being able to come back in the series.
Look, take a screenshot of this, okay? And when your friend said he just came back, he missed game 1, and he asked how game 1 go, just show him this. 20 kills to 1. No turrets, or rather no forts destroyed for SPT. 4-level lead. And then show him all the Twitch clips you took of those incredible plays that you were watching, and he'll get a picture real fast. I feel like if any team can bounce back, it is this one. They've had hardship before. They've had roster problems. They've had visa problems. They've dealt with all sorts of bad luck. They face MVP Black in their first round, like Resurgence playing against a tough team in round 1. You have to accept the cards that you're dealt with and step up and say, I'm a professional team. We're a professional team. We're going to make this work. They've got to take this time between drafts to regain focus and think about what plan B is, because plan A with the Zagara absolutely did not work out.
No, and that was the battleground choice of SPT to go there, go to Cursed Hollow with the Zagara. So now we'll see if they more highly value